Welcome to the pre-college SIG meeting webinar that we're planning to discuss strategy and strategy implementations, mostly in Turkey, but our proposal is a larger content. My name is Emre Göktepe. I will be the first presenter. After me, Meltem will be talking about implementation of systems thinking in Turkey in K-12 schools, not 12, K-8 schools. Then Ülken will be presenting what we're trying to do for, I think, 3 terms in a Master of Arts course in a Faculty of Education. So I think I can start by sharing my screen. And before that, for the questions, I think we would have plenty of time at the end of the session, at the end of the presentation. So we'll be pleased if you can write them on the chat, and Özgün will be answering them as much as she can. The other ones will be talking together. So let me start reading my speaker notes. So I want to start with an anecdote from Nasrettin Hoca. He's a cultural figure in Middle East and famous for his anecdotes since 13th century. One day, Nasrettin Hoca walks over to a lake and starts pouring spoonfuls of yogurt into the lake. A villager comes up to him and asks what he's doing. Hoca calmly says, "I'm making yogurt." The villager laughs. "You must know that the lake won't turn into yogurt." Hoca replies, "Yes, but what if it does?" So our strategy is based on these words. What if it does? We think that it definitely worth the effort. The models I'm going to share with you in a minute will not be numeric models with endogenous behavior. They will be models showing physical and institutional structure of the system we wish to develop. So policies, that is decision rules of the agents, should have been another layer. Instead, we will try to present these rules and outcomes in presentations following this presentation. And one more thing, the links for the models will be published in Society's pre-college education page with the recording of this webinar. You can see the models anytime and send comments about it. So, this can be viewed as a generic model. We developed this for the world and we want to open it for discussion. We use the storytelling feature of Stella. Of course, our ultimate goal, our mission is to improve the state of the world.
Emre, we can't see your presentation at the moment.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Sorry. So. Now? Okay. So, I don't have, this was the first slide and this was the second, so you didn't miss much. But this was much more important. Thank you, Meltem. So, the ultimate goal of this one is to improve the state of the world. We have a vision of infusion of systems thinking and system dynamics modeling into K-12 education. We work with schools and education faculties of universities to realize this mission. For the time being, most of the education in the world operates this way. Students enroll without ST competency and graduate without ST competency. This is the most important flow of the system. All work is done for students to become system thinkers. And if this flow keeps increasing by decreasing of the other flow, in time, we can expect ST citizen ratio to increase. Such an increase will increase the number of ST decision makers in all levels of organizations. But of course, currently, vast majority of teachers in the world do not have ST training. So the first and the lowest leverage point is here to train in-service teachers to become competent ST teachers. This is a low leverage intervention because it is very hard for the teacher to sustain ST lessons if environment is not supportive enough. But it is crucial to increase in-service ST competent teacher stock because only by this way, the average ST competency can increase the system thinker flow. This one. This may be a leverage point for NGOs to provide ST trainings for in-service teachers. Teachers should access high-quality material easily to deliver exceptional results. Teachers should focus on the transfer of ST approach to students instead of reinventing the wheel. Material quality should be maintained and increased as new experiences accumulated. Teachers should have motivation to use their competency and available materials. The essential intrinsic motivation for a teacher is to see her students becoming system thinkers. But even these reinforcing loops may not be enough for the teacher if the teacher must work in an unsupportive environment. A higher leverage is in education faculties. If pre-service teachers become competent to adopt ST approach into their lesson plans, in time all in-service teachers become ST competent. NGOs may also play an important role here. But this is a viable intervention if only there are competent professors in the education departments of universities. This seems to be the highest leverage point for NGOs like us. The currency in academia is good quality publications, while a short-term motivation for teachers, number of publications is the main driver of the academia infusion, this part. If flow from non-ST to ST academicians increase to a certain point, then system will have capacity to work by itself. Strengthening this flow may help indigenous behavior to occur. Another result of increasing number of ST academicians is increasing of the ST-related outcomes in curriculum. This is very, very important as education systems align themselves with outcomes in curriculum. This is the most important support for teacher motivation as it becomes her job to teach by using ST approach. Once education systems start working indigenously, we can expect perhaps in 15 years, a flow of K-12 ST graduates to faculties of education. Not just an inflow of ST pre-service teachers, but an increase in ST decision makers can be expected. This should take another 5 to 10 years as it takes time for a new graduate to become a decision maker in an organization. And when this happens, we can expect much more emphasis on ST-related outcomes. Then we can say that our mission is accomplished. So this was our proposal for changing the world through infusing systems thinking into K-12 education. We also made a simple numeric model to simulate how this behavior might occur in Turkey, and here it is. This looks a bit different, but the principles are the same. We have a flow of in-service teachers. a flow of faculties and a flow of materials developed. If we run the model, it shows that by 2035, all faculties of education will be offering ST courses. If we can do this, we think that in time, self-perpetuating behavior will follow. Now, I want to talk about our basic principles for applying this strategy. So this actually is a simple model of an infectious disease or diffusion of an innovation. All we are trying to do is to increase contact and infusion fractions. For increasing contact fraction, that is number of teachers and academicians exposed to ST, the most important enabler is accessibility. This can be done by publishing all content online. And this content should be free of charge. And mentoring, that is any kind of consulting about the implementation, should also be free of charge. This has a very simple explanation. If we can give high quality content and mentoring for free, we set the level of quality, we set the standard. And we avoid competition that might undermine the very quality that systems thinking deserves. A sustainable and energy efficient but patience demanding way to do this is working with volunteers. But these volunteers should be volunteers in real terms. A sure way to filter real volunteers is to ask for their unpaid times, the times they allocate for doing work without expecting a return. Of course, if there is such a time, but if there isn't, then this means that this person do not qualify to be a volunteer. Such a group of volunteers having a shared vision of developing, implementing, and improving will also be the warranty of content quality, which brings us to the second enabler of infusion, and that is infusion fraction. Another important factor of infusion fraction is teacher-orientedness of all work being done. The focus should always be on teachers. This is especially important when working with academia. All academic work should have a practical value to the teacher. A sure way to do is to use current lesson plans. By this way, minimum load is applied on teachers' already very busy work schedule. Each adaptation should include at least one of the three systems thinking tools: behavior over time graphs, stock flow diagrams, or causal loop diagrams. And lastly, we propose to start with stock flow diagrams. No feedback loops in the beginning. This choice has two simple reasons. First, it is much easier to teach a kindergarten student something as concrete as a bathtub than a construct like circular causality. Secondly, to differentiate a causal loop from a concept map, one should have a solid understanding of what a flow and what a stock is. Then she would understand why a causal loop must include at least one stock and one flow. Finally, this is the plan we make for realizing our strategy with these principles. I won't go into detail because activities are specific to Turkey, but a short outline may be useful. Plan covers the activities to be done from 2011 to 2050. The first year is monthly detailed. Following 6 years are yearly objectives. And last two columns represent goals for 5-year periods. They are more aggregate than objectives of previous periods. Actually, we did the planning backwards. First, we put the ultimate goals, then try to deploy these to today's actions. This is the last slide. I want to end this presentation with words inspired from Isaac Newton's words. If we have dared to try this, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. We are very grateful to the giants of the field. We greet them with deep respect and thank you for your patience. Okay. So, shall we have any questions or? Oh, 6. I think we can go on with Meltem, so everything's okay.
But there is one question. Kim is asking, Emre.
Which is?
So my first question was, do you have education standards in Turkey, the equivalent of the next generation science standards in the United States? And if so, what is in those standards about anything about systems, let alone about systems dynamics?
Maybe Meltem is the only teacher among us. I'm an industrial engineering and Ülkem is a doctor of medicine.
Yeah, maybe I can. Sure. We have standards. We call them learning outcomes, but unfortunately, no, they don't include system dynamics.
Do they include any systems at all, like Earth systems, for example?
Actually, what we have is that cycles, trying to look into the systems mostly from ecology. But as I explained in Turkey in the next presentation, there is no direct expression system related to system thinking, but we use the learning outcomes and implement systems thinking approach to these objectives.
So then that feeds into my next question, which was in the first diagram, there was a node for teacher motivation. From where, what drives teacher motivation in your idea? If it's, I mean, obviously many different things could drive teacher motivation, but one obvious driver would have been because it's in the standards, but that's obviously not the motivation. So from where do you think the teacher motivation will be coming?
Shall I answer? Emre, maybe you can also answer and I will also answer.
As far as I can see, the exceptional ones goes into this, and the innovative teachers, we can only access to innovative teachers. They have intrinsic motivation. They do not need an outside force to do something. So, but this is a very small, tiny minority of all teachers. So we're planning to use the work of these teachers as a laboratory work, and the results, carrying these results to universities, to academia, to show that systems thinking works much better with the current applications or current methods. And with the help of the academia, then go to Ministry of Education and tell them they should put or adapt systems thinking approach to their curriculum outcomes. After that, this will be an extrinsic motivation for all other teachers. So this is a very long-term project, I think. Did I answer, or Danielle, would you like to?
Sure. I'm curious about what you imagine, what kinds of tools or things you imagine students using. At what age do they start to engage with the actual, you know, quantitative system modeling? I know that we've have some experience. I'm a former teacher, and I work with teachers a lot. Mm-hmm. And Stella in particular was a tool that's been tried in the classroom and is quite difficult for students to engage in. So I understand that you talked about kindergarten, and I'm assuming you're talking about, you know, up through all pre-college grades? Like, is there a need for new tools or new ways of introducing systems thinking to students that would work at a younger level? I'm saying that with a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because I'm also working on a tool designed for that kind of thing, which I put a link to in the chat if people are interested. But I'm just curious about your vision for how you imagine really young kids engaging and going forward up when they start to engage in something more like Stella.
Well, maybe our next presentation might address this question. If not, we can keep on talking about it. If you please, we can. I have a lot of things to say, but keeping myself.
Yeah, maybe we discuss in deeper.
Okay.
Shall I begin? And maybe we can reply to Daniel's questions in 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Right. I'm sharing now. Sorry. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Not yet. Okay, it's coming, I think. Hang on. Yes. Okay. I think. Okay. I'm Meltem Seylan Ali Beyoğlu, and I'm a math teacher. And after working 5 years as an academic coordinator, I'm now working in the same school as a research and development coordinator. And I'm a member of Systems Thinking Association in Turkey. And my topic for today is strategy implementation for schools in Turkey. I will share my experiences from 2 different points. I don't know why it's not passing. Hang on. Shall I begin again? I don't know if something is wrong. Just wait a minute. I'll share again. All right. Okay, I see it now. And this is our first training, which was organized by Sherry Mardin, who is from Waters Foundation. And it can be said that our community in Turkey had visibly grown after this training. And in 2015, the first experience sharing symposium was organized in Ekim College in Izmir, in Turkey, in the southwest coast of Turkey, in 2015. And in 2016, the Systems Thinking Association in Turkey, which was founded to contribute to the systems thinking and understanding skills in the fields of education, health, environment, modeling, and strategy. And in 2016, we organized teacher training with 72 teachers participating in the training, and which was designed and delivered by a voluntary group of trained and experienced teachers. In 2017, the first storybook in Turkish with system thinking approach was written by Özlem Orçun. She's a preschool teacher and also one of the founders of the System Thinking Association in Turkey. And the first presentation in System Dynamics Conference was done in 2018 for us. And we attended to the conference with 2 presentations. As you know, that it is occurred in Iceland in 2018. Emre is a little bit talk about our model infusing system thinking into K-12 education in Turkey. And we first developed this infusion model and build our strategy for K-12 education by using this model. And we focus on 3 major areas. The first one is here, actually in service training and the pre-service training here, and also some content development at the same time. That's why there is 3 major areas on this model, and high quality, easy to use and easy to understand content is also needed. And to create this content development, it can be done in service teachers who are already in the system by their help, by designing, implementing, and updating various lesson plans and activities with system thinking tools. This is our training, implementation, and presentation cycle developed in time. And the structure of this cycle was updated due to the new circumstances during the pandemic period. The first two trainings were given by Voters Centers for System Thinking, but in 2016, as a result of social unrest in Turkey, we could not organize a training. So with Voters Center of Support, we developed our own training. And as we did not have any experienced instructors, we divide the work and give trainings to groups of teachers with facilitator teachers who had training and implementation experiences. And according to the cycle, a teacher qualifies to be a facilitator assistant in these trainings after 1 year of implementation. So the symposiums become a source of both participants and facilitators. We offer free workshop for teachers and mentoring on implementation for trained teachers. We organize symposiums where opportunities for experience sharing are created. Yes, these are the behavior over time graphs showing number of resources and the number of participants for trainings and face-to-face experience sharing symposium we have done till today, 2021. After that time, we couldn't have opportunity to do the face-to-face ones, but we use mostly our online education board. That I will explain quickly. To improve standardized and widespread system thinking trainings and create a filtering mechanisms for applications, we decided to develop an online system thinking courses using Open edX platform. We have opened this course by June 2019. The first course have about 35 videos, and each of them is 5-7 minutes length, each having a 10-question knowledge check set. And the teachers who complete this course will be eligible to attend classroom training composed of mostly hands-on activities. Currently, about 864 teachers are registered in that platform, and 264 of them finished the online courses. And all our content, all our content we produce are open source through the association's website and freely. However, mentoring system works in the association. We encourage the schools and the teachers to implement system thinking approach into their classroom throughout the processes you have seen on the screen. And these processes, maybe I can do it like this first. Yeah. This process is adapted according to the school's needs and the structure. And I would like to express one of the school implementation where I work. And I'm working at Darüşşafaka Education Institution as a research and development coordinator. And one of my job is to implement the system thinking approach into the lesson plans via numerical modeling with science and math teachers. I met with system thinking approach throughout one of the trainings of Systems Thinking Association in 2018. While waiting for appropriate conditions at school, first trial of system thinking was done in the second term of 2019 and 20 school year. we implemented it to the 8th grade science lessons. Yes, all right. Sometimes I think it's passing quickly. Hang on. Sorry, Dan. Yes, okay. In 2020, 12 voluntary science and math teachers of middle school are trained for 8 weeks, and each session is organized as a hands-on activity that lasted about 30 minutes. And free version of Stella Online software is used for building system dynamics models by the teacher. And the lessons began to be developed. In Turkey, all schools use the same curricula and prepared by the Ministry of National Education. That's the first, for the first year of our strategy was using science and math objectives from school curricula, but applied after the school with voluntary students. And we decided to work on numerical models. After completion of the introduction of system dynamics modeling, 5 minutes videos we prepared. These are all openly published on the website of the System Thinking Association with all materials or the lesson plans we created. And the last year, almost 110 students from 3 different grades participated to the during the whole academic year. And we made 2 different implementations in 7th grade, as you have seen here. And the students who participated in the first implementation were the mentors in the second one. And we planned with the lesson plans together with the students and with the teachers. And we implemented to the new teacher, to the new students. And luckily, we have found a chance to share our implementations both in System Dynamics Society pre-college special interest group and in the conferences. And we make evaluation meetings at the end of the year, and we summarize the activities we have done. We discuss what exclude and what should be improved. On one of the ideas was opening an ecology social club, for example, from last year, and now we're currently running at the moment. We implemented into the club, we opened the club. Working in summer with voluntary teachers is important for the next year's planning. As you can see in the presentation, the green and the orange frames are the topics developed in the last summer for science curricula in 4 different grades. And now we're implementing these into the curricula according to the yearly plans. Our work is supported by United Nations Development Program Turkey, Turkey Office Accelerator Lab within the context of Social Innovation Support Program, and the supported program called Environmental Education with System Thinking and the World Climate Game developed and implemented into the 8th grade voluntary students after the school. And now we are developing an online course to share all materials and experiences with the interested teachers for free. Thank you. If you have any questions, you're welcome. Maybe Danielle has questions I can reply from my side, from my school. And Stella, this year, for example, we had applied it to our 5th grade. And we use Stella to teach graphs, the graphs. And suddenly they began to use the graphs by the help of Stella. And Stella becomes a kind of a puzzle for them. But I think the main point is that how we give it to the students. That's why I think is user-friendly, but maybe for kids, for lower age is also can be created. in my school, it worked very well. When we realized that they have difficulty, we made some revisions, and mostly at the beginning, we mostly use the models rather than creating the models with the students. I can say this. Shall we go to the Ülkem's presentation?
Okay. Thank you, Meltem.
I think there was one more question from
okay.
Mahla. Do you also use interactive learning environment in your curriculum design?
Yes, sometimes we use.
Okay. So.
Okay, so now I can share. Sorry for our dog. My pre-recorded PowerPoint presentation. Hi, this is Ülkem Yararbaş. At this part of the webinar, we will present the Systems Thinking course for teachers in a Master of Art program in Learning Sciences. As Emre explained in the model that reflects our strategy plan, one of our goals is to open systems thinking courses in education faculties in graduate and also postgraduate programs, and even make them standard. In this presentation, I will try to introduce the first systems thinking course designed as a part of a Master of Art program in Turkey. This system thinking course was opened in MEF University, Istanbul in 2018-19 education year and was repeated in the consecutive years 2 more times. The first one was a face-to-face course and the later 2 were online due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Design and implementation of the course is made by our team of trainers consisting of Hasret Nuhoğlu, a professor of education faculty, I, Ülkem Yararbaş, a medical doctor from Ege University who is teaching systems thinking in medical school, and Emre Göktepe, an industrial engineer and one of the founders of the Turkish Society. In this MA program, all students were actively working teachers in various grade levels, and our course program included 42 lesson hours. This is our 42 hours lesson plan. Now I will try to explain the details of the program. The program starts with a pretest. An open-ended question is used for this purpose. The question is as follows. Identify an ongoing problem that you think it is important. The problem can be at any level, which means personal, institutional, social, local, national, or global. Write the problem in a few sentences and then analyze the problem you have written with the information you have right now and write your solution suggestions, if any. In this program table, each color stands for a different education activity. In all 3 courses, as the first day activity, we invited an expert in systems dynamics, Yaman Barlas. Our course is designed in flipped learning style, which means it is consisted of complementary asynchronous and synchronous lessons. The blue color is for asynchronous lessons. These lessons include basic information on systems thinking. Students are expected to watch the videos covering basic topics such as system definition, iceberg approach, behavior over time graph, stack flow diagrams, and causal loop, and then complete evaluations at the end of each session. White color indicates theoretical lessons. These lessons are a more comprehensive version of the asynchronous lessons and are mostly interactive rather than classical lessons. They are enriched with implementation examples, teamworks, and also system games. in our online course, we saw that most of the implementations and games could be easily transferred to online platforms like Concept Board or Miro. Here in this slide, you can see an example of a game that is adapted to online course. This is the Living Loop game. It is a very effective game to teach reinforcing and balancing causal loops. On the left-hand side, original version of the game is seen, and on the right, the online version. At the end of each course day, students are expected to write a learning diary. We use this document mainly as feedback from students to improve our lesson plan. As for reading material, we used some articles on systems thinking written by pioneers of systems thinking, system dynamics like Forrester Meadows. And for this year's lessons, we also used a book written mainly by Emre Göktepe from our society. We can translate the name of the book to English as Essentials of Systems Thinking in Education. This book is mainly written as a teaching material for education faculties. Our students read this book and gave feedback and wrote comments for each sessions. I believe that one of the most important parts of our education program was the experience sharing part. In this part of the program, teachers having experience in classroom system thinking activities share their experience and implementations. Hearing the difficulties that teachers faced and also the benefits of working with system thinking tools were very precious. In addition, invited teachers had MA students do some practices during their sessions. Here in the slide, you see some examples. A creative writing activity using system thinking on the left, a mathematical problem solving example using Sterla Online in the middle, and an analysis of animated video by system thinking tools on the right top. Using the pre-test and post-test responses, we also made a statistical analysis to see the effectiveness of the course. A comparison was made in 5 categories. The first one is percentage of analysis. This term reflects the ratio of number of words used for the analysis of the problem to the total number of words used in the given response. Secondly, depth of analysis was calculated. For this purpose, the number of vertical cause and effect relations, such as result, the cause of the result, and cause of the cause, was calculated. Next one is width of the analysis. This part of the assessment is about multiplicity of the causes mentioned in the response. The number of relations in the entire analysis was the 4th topic. And the number of causal loops was the last part of the evaluation. And you can see in the chart that no one mentioned a causal loop in the pre-test phase. As you can see at the bottom of the slide, pair two-tailed t-test showed statistically significant difference in the assessed topic following a system thinking course. And some highlights from learning diaries. The main question in the first lessons was how to apply system thinking in my lessons. The answer of this question is given by practitioner teachers in experience sharing sessions. Learning diaries also shows that these sessions are very beneficial. Secondly, it is very important to support theoretical lessons with applications. Otherwise, what is learned is not internalized and immediately forgotten. Thirdly, system thinking skills are important not only to integrate into education materials, but also in everyday life. Especially, it can be used to solve problems among children in the classrooms. System thinking is suitable for differentiated teaching in the classroom. And finally, system thinking training is not easy, but it is very enjoyable to learn a new perspective. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you again.
I think Daniel has a question. Should I answer it? Sorry, Kim, please.
Dan's question was there before mine. Why don't you answer his? It's a good question from the chat.
Well, shall I go?
Mine is more for the whole group. If yours is pertinent, Kim, to the current presentation, you should go first.
Okay. So I think it's wonderful that you're teaching this in a school of education, the school of education that I was lightly associated with for a while, had nothing like this. So that's awesome. I wondered if you have a record of when the teachers move on into their professional jobs, are they going ahead and teaching systems thinking? And if so, what experience they report back when they try?
Okay, who is responding, Emre or?
Okay, I can do. Well, the course program was MA program, Master of Arts, and all the teachers were currently practicing in-service teachers. So actually their homework was doing systems thinking in their classroom. So they immediately applied that. But we do not, we are currently introducing a course for in-service, pre-service teachers. I think the 4th grade is last year. But we don't have any experience what they will do with that system thinking course, because we are just in the middle of it.
Sure. And the in-service teachers who were in the course previously, they used it during the course. Did they continue to use it after the course was over?
Not all of them. Not all of them, because well, is there anybody who'd like to make a comment on this, or shall I continue?
You can, I believe, Emre.
Okay. The problem is the unsupportive environment and of the teacher, because this is an extra thing for her to do. So she must have either much time or more than usual level of energy. So we actually, while doing this, we only have a short period of time for them to apply systems thinking, but we don't want more of them, actually, because as I tried to explain, we use that part as a laboratory research. We take the results we use these results to make academicians interested in the field. When they get interested and they open courses in universities, in fact, in faculties of education, then they started to give birth to in-service teachers that already have systems thinking in their body of knowledge. But this would not be enough, because the curriculum do not enforce them to use systems thinking tools. So after this, we have to make something, or we have to work on ministries of education, or I don't know. Do you have any Ministry of Education in the United States? I don't know. We have one, Ministry of Education in Turkey. So if they accept to put some outcomes with systems thinking, so all the country, all the teachers have to use it. So they have to learn it. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Thank you. There's no one person, no one minister who could make that decision in the United States.
Mm-hmm. So you have a much longer way to go.
Yes, the process of revising standards and getting any new content into standards in the United States is very long and arduous.
Mm-hmm. But the strategy we have is not the ministries. Actual strategy is go directly to the departments of education. So I think you have them. The faculties of education, I mean. So if you change this, eventually everything would follow it, I presume.
Maybe I also can reply to Kim's question. She was asking me what assessment tool. And I think, Kim, I suppose that the management team is very important in schools to create the environments. That's why they should also be part of the this approach actually. And for the assessment science, we decided at the beginning to do pre and post test, but and then we realized when we have a look at the results, we created some assessment tools, but we decided that it doesn't work because in a short time, in a high standards thinking standards, it's not easy to make a pre and post test in a short time also. And that's why mostly we use formative assessment tools. And but we also observe the students' quizzes or some summative questions reply and how improved or what we expected, because some of the students we see that they use understanding and sometimes the graphs is very easier than the X years. That's why we see the improvements and sometimes comparing with the last year's papers. And that's why just mostly formative assessment tools we used. And Emre Daniels had a question about grade 5 and 8 students have constructed as a part of current material. Shall we show?
Well, may I, Megan, may I show some activity plans? Then after okay. So I'll just, so this is our website. All things are concentrated here, and this is the resources. This is of course in Turkish. So this is 5th grade, and this is from 5th to 8th grade, and heat and temperature. And I can go from here or from here. We are trying to, this is heat transfer, actually. This is the heat and the temperature difference, and heat flows outwards depending on the temperature difference. So we have, for example, this part, and we can change some parts of like this, and if you this, and we get a little bit complicated 2 pieces, and a little more complicated. For example, you have a bigger one, smaller one. So they use trial and error. This is for heat and temperature relations, but this is for 5th grade, and this is distance traveled and velocity. So when you start it, they can see the basic of stuck, what a stuck is, what a flow is, and what flows, what kind of behavior creates what kind of flows like this, or what does this mean? This is the distance traveled. So this is where you start. This is the initial value. You can change this or this. This is for the 5th grade, because this is the allowable maximum to be lectured. So there are some other type of questions, but this is very simple. But we have basing on this. We have this one, for example. This is a lesson plan to work on, not just a simulation. But I want to show the simulation part of it. So actually, this part is the same. But now this has biflows, and the change of distance, we say this is velocity, and velocity can be changed with acceleration, and acceleration is affected by the force. And here it's written that the mass is not shown, but there is a mass, of course. And that force and delta t distance, change of distance, makes the change of work, and this change of work creates change, and this change of work is actually the transformation of the energy from potential to kinetic and kinetic to potential. And this is all Newton in just one model. But this is the 8th grade or 9th grade maybe. So we try to make this way. We try to find a piece of curriculum outcome that we can just inject a flow or stock, and then try to increase it gradually until it becomes a full-fledged model.
So it seems, is it primarily that students are using systems models to explore phenomena and topics, or do they end up building their own at some point? Or
well, they are not. They are building, but not that. They are not that kind of modeler. Actually, for example, we give the model for example, body systems. We give the stocks and flows and want them to connect them, like connecting a puzzle, but they have all formulas inside, and if they do not connect them correctly, the body won't work. So simple, actually. But we again start from digestion, and then put the lungs and all the circulatory system, systems by systems. We enlarge the system. Actually, these are all subsystems, because all the system is, the aim of the system is to give energy to the being. So gradually they see that, but by combining the parts.
Or sometimes they do the first part. Maybe I can add also, Daniel. Mostly our first aim is to read the models. And then when they get used to more with the models, we can open their Stella online ones. For example, in 8th grade, they saw some, we had a water in damp problem, and they solved the problems, for example, through the simple models in Stella. But the first, as Emre told, the first ones is also understanding the models first, and some linear problems they use.
Thank you. I do need to run to another meeting and apologize, but I appreciate everyone's sharing of what's happening. Turkey is very exciting that there's so many people who are interested in incorporating systems thinking without the impetus of even the standards, as Kim mentioned. It was sort of surprising to see how many teachers were interested in building this into their, or at least learning about it and thinking about how it could be incorporated into their work.
Thank you.
I have a question. So I'm leading the university innovation team for the society, and we are thinking about how to incorporate system dynamics in universities worldwide. So we wanted to kind of learn from your experience in Turkey and incorporating it into the pre-college education system. But I'm thinking about lessons learned for us implementing more system dynamics in universities, and kind of what processes did you go through with teachers and kind of stakeholders to build support and interest in learning more about system dynamics? Because I think a lot of it will be needing to, we'll need to train faculty from other disciplines, more traditional disciplines, in order to, learn more about system dynamics and apply it to their courses. So I'm curious about what strategies you use to kind of inspire teachers and administrators to support this.
Shall I? And I think trial and error, I think the best thing we can, because when we first started this, I'm an industrial engineering, and I'm coming from consultancy in white collar workshop. And the thing I know was to go directly to the founders or the high level, upper level management to do the job. So we tried to, when we ever started this, the first thing we did was this. And it was actually nearly a total failure. And maybe Meltem is one exception, because upper level or the management of schools have very different motivations. There are private schools, public schools have different, managers have different motivations, but teachers, they are the ones that just see the child, and they have the one really have an emotional contact. So they are the ones that really care about the child. So they see what really important for the child is, not for his parent or any other person. They are much more sincere in dealing with the child or dealing with the concept. So, but not many of them, of course, but a critical mass is very crucial. So we start with the teachers, not the academicians, because academicians have completely different motives. And we just work on the teachers and try to create some concrete examples, but not the ones that academicians give importance, not the t-values or ANOVAs or such things, because they are not the things that is happening in the child. So,
like complex social problems and that kind of thing. that you touch on?
The teachers, when they really believe that they are doing something meaningful, they somehow make the academicians or anybody accept what they want in time, of course, not quickly. But the starting point should always be, this is as far as I can see, that may be very different from other cities or other countries. But as far as I can see, if you start with the teachers and be patient on them, because 90% just comes and goes. You always have 10% maybe to work with, but that 10%, now we have 70 or 80 people in the association, and they are devoted. They are the real volunteers, and they intrinsically create evidence. That someone, they become believers, and when they get into contact with any academicians, they are much more stronger or influential than any research papers results part. This is my
Thank
idea.
you.
Okay. But it takes time, I think.
Definitely.
Kim, I think.
So I have a question about the models that you showed us, where the fifth graders were working with models that you are giving them. What learning activities do the students do to become convinced of the truth of the models? So in other words, the models are given. Do they do experiments or observations in the real world system, and then compare something about the behavior of the real Earth or the real predator-prey system or real heat and gravity or whatever to the model?
Well, this was not that one, but we have another. I think it's from Creative Learning Exchange, and that was you have a thermometer, and first you boil a cup of water, and the first thing that students do is to make their estimates to what will the temperature of the water will be in how long and in which shape. Actually, the shape should be bended, but nearly most of them they know that it should go down, but how? So okay. That how part is very interesting actually, because it works with the gap. Bigger the gap, speeder the loss. So when
the gap between what and what?
The bigger the gap between the temperatures, the higher velocity, the higher the loss of temperature, loss of heat. That's why, because in the beginning, you have a steeper curve. It goes very steep because the temperature difference is high, the gap is big.
Yep.
So when the gap gets smaller and smaller, then the flow gets smaller or slower, and so they somehow get in balance. But coming to balance, they know, actually everybody knows they will eventually come into balance, but how it works is the nature's way of doing things, because this is the same as the pressure, this is the same as voltage. They are very...
So they're measuring a behavior over time in the real system, and then they're creating a behavior over time in the model. and comparing the shapes of them. Is that what,
yes.
what I'm hearing?
First,
okay.
they do an estimate and
Yep.
fail to do it. So because they make the experiment and experiment results show a different curve. So
yep.
there's a chance to wonder about it. So
yes.
we fool that wonder with system dynamics.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's very important that they deal with the real world system as well as with the modeled system for as many instances as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and because we are arguing that the nature works this way, so we have to prove it. We have to show them that the nature actually works this way.
I agree. Good, thank you.
I thank you. Megan, is your hand raised, or?
You answered my question already. Sorry, I should figure out how to turn that off.
Okay, I think the time
I think you should see the chat. Jane has something.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was really thinking about the teacher motivation side. Love the way in which you tracked back the nodes of highest effect and focused on the teachers and then back onto the academics. But people had raised the question around the standards, and if there aren't standards around specific systems thinking and systems dynamics, I was wondering whether there's a way of demonstrating that actually the deeper understanding of concepts and application to other standards is demonstrated through interacting through systems thinking and systems dynamics was one way around kind of the teacher motivation piece. And with the examples you'd shared, many were very focused on systems dynamics and modeling. So I just wondered if there were some broader archetypes that were being used that might be more applicable to more across the social sciences, literacy, things like that, that might be easier for students to tap into with their normal teaching that you were planning to perhaps include, or maybe already include.
Well, you are right. That was not that was a very specific example, but the first activity we do is actually graphing a story. Any storybook can do it, except some anatomy books. But if there is any event sequence, then it is very actually easy and fun first to discuss about what is changing, because in one instance a student, I think she was a kindergarten student, she said, my feelings are changing while reading the book. So she does behavior over time graph of her feelings. This was, I was shocked when because I was only looking at what is inside this story, because I am neural. So the story is very good. Any storybook, and we have an assessment for this. First, the sequence of events and finding what are the things that are changing in the story, and one of them, any one of them, that first graphing it, then put that parameter as a stock, and for all in the graph, for all upward behavior, putting an inflow and writing it. For all kind of downward behavior, put an outflow and writing it. So just one stock and one inflow, one outflow. This can be done even in kindergartens. They don't need to use the numbers, because we put the smiling face or the sad face and some photographs of the events. We can use this, and this is very good because the history in later years is only a story. When they know how to graph, when they know how to find what is changing, what is important in a story, later years, they will have the capacity to take the interesting thing, what is changing in World War II, what is important, what happened to GDP to make the second or the first or any world war. Such inferences they can do. They can get used to it within these kindergarten students and in kindergarten levels. I think this is very cross-sectional, cross-disciplinary, I think, the story. Was it an answer to your question, or I was answering the wrong question?
No, it was a very good answer in terms of both the way in which the tools have been introduced and used more broadly across disciplines, and also how it helps children perform well on standards that aren't necessarily related to systems thinking and dynamics. I guess the other area I'm left curious about is whether there are some archetypes that perhaps aren't specifically around systems dynamics, but might encourage more systems thinking. I don't know, I'm trying to think things like the iceberg or shifting the burden, those kinds of archetypes, whether that might be more widely applicable and might be another way to encourage and motivate teachers of a broader range of disciplines. And a way to sort of layer on the different tools you've talked about, like the stock and flow and behavior over time, relate to parts of the iceberg and so on. So make those kind of mashup connections, if you like.
Okay, well, I think Megan.
Yeah, actually, Jane, we are the only school that we use the numerical models in middle school at the moment. That's why we are kind of pilot at the moment. And that's why in the earliest age, as you said, that Emre and Ülkem has a lot of experience with the teachers. When you have a look at the website, you will see a lot of books, videos, and the materials, especially in the early age. I think it's very important to look at from that perspective.
Yeah, I was excited to see you had some storybooks around systems thinking and that. So yeah.
Okay, I think we are very late, aren't we?
There are a lot of nice feelings, sharing ideas on the chat side. We couldn't manage to do them, read and reply them, but I think we will record it, Emre, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, we will reply. Thank you so much.
And we do invite you to the special interest group meetings, and we actually do much deeper discussions and make decisions of what to do, how to project, how to plan. So you are very welcome to be with us.
And Jane, maybe in our X webinar, there was a Turkish book, storybooks that we made a webinar with. And we also created an assessment tool in Turkey for assessing the storybooks. Ülkem and Emre knows well. Maybe we can also send you the video
links.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want to listen.
That would be great.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye.
Bye.